Welcome to today's webinar. I'm Jill Hodson. I am a K-12 Program Manager here at IMS Global, and I also want to introduce my co-host, Kara Jenkins. She's the Marketing Communications Director here at IMS Global. And we look forward to today's presentation. And please do give us your questions. This is going to be a wonderful presentation today, and we know you're going to have things you want to know more about, so please use our Q&A to submit your questions throughout the presentation. Your audio will remain muted as we go throughout. So let me introduce today's speakers. To begin with, I'd like to introduce Tamer Abul-Saad, Debbie Durrant, Bruce Gardner, Sean Hardy, Kim Holland, and Tammy Humphrey. And today we're going to be talking about the cognitive journey that Gwinnett County Public Schools has been on along with IBM. I think you're going to be finding that this journey has helped Gwinnett County Public Schools make a great progress towards personalizing learning while being able to use some really important analytic tools to help them get better understanding around their student progress and journey. And I'm really pleased now to go ahead and turn the presentation over to our great partners as they get started. Tammy, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. So let me go ahead and take screen sharing. Welcome, everyone. As Jill said, we are here to present our journey with Gwinnett County Public Schools. To start off, though, we're going to give you a little bit of history about IBM and education. We're going to take a look at our data and analytics that we've been working with Gwinnett County Public Schools. And then we're going to dive specifically into a project that we did with our early childhood team focusing on kindergarten. We'll give you an overview of that pilot. Then we'll take a deeper dive into the IBM Watson intelligent tutoring system. And then, time permitting, we'll give a peek at what's next. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Bruce, and he's going to talk to us about what we've been doing from an IBM perspective in the field of education.
Well, thank you, Tammy, and thank you to all those who've joined today's webinar. This is Bruce Gardner, and I'm responsible for IBM's education business in North America. And I want to start by thanking our great friends at IMS for this opportunity. There are some truly tremendous things going on at Gwinnett County Public Schools, and we labeled the presentation to include the words cognitive and AI, or artificial intelligence, or IBM likes to call it augmented intelligence, how we can use the latest technology today to help deliver cognitive insights to teachers and administrators about student performance and school performance, and how we can truly optimize learning outcomes. But of course, to do all that, and we're going to show you our most recent example, as Tammy mentioned, but just before we do that for a minute, before you can get certainly to that level of complexity and unlock the real power of cognitive and AI technology, you've got to start with a foundational layer that includes data and analytics. And I don't think there's a school district or a school itself around today that isn't swimming in lots of data. And knows that there's a great challenge in organizing it, and knows that there's a great opportunity in organizing the data to unlock insights. The question, of course, is how do we do it? So just to give you a little quick background on that before we get to the specific example in early childhood at Gwinnett, you have to begin with an understanding of the K-12 environment. And fortunately, IBM has been helping schools with technology for decades. In fact, our CEO, Ginny Rometty, talks about education as IBM's quote-unquote second moonshot. It's a civic responsibility we all take very seriously to use IBM technologies and IBM vision as to what's coming in the future and make sure that our schools and our school systems are well prepared to take advantage of that. So to do that, we've done things like form very strategic industry partnerships, one of which depicted on the chart here you see is with Apple. A second industry partnership is with Sesame Workshop. That's the one we're going to dive deeply into today. And we've announced a number of programs that help prepare our students, including our famous preK program, Pathways to Technology. that helps students get an associate degree while still in high school, that gives them job skills, that makes them employable and assigns them with a corporate mentor along the way. So there's a lot of programs that we're involved in, and be happy to take questions on any of those either during the webinar today or offline. Next chart, please, Tammy. One of the things that we really focus on at IBM is how we help solve the great data challenges in schools. You know, what if schools and districts could more easily identify at-risk students or underperforming classes or other factors impacting student success? What if we could help teachers tailor their classroom instruction and their course offerings by learning style and help use technology to make that a simpler process for the classroom teacher? What if we could help superintendents and principals gain critical insights to help them not only manage but maximize their resources? And of course, a lot of other what-if questions we can ask, whether it's in budgeting and finance, in curriculum development, or with the students and instructors themselves. And the great news is we have many, many tools that help us manage this data today. And this is really where our partnership began with Gwinnett County, was around starting to organize and structure and optimize data into a very efficient way. IBM, of course, has tremendous experience doing that in many, many industries. And education is certainly not the least of which, in which we've applied our expertise and can help you organize your data as well. Next chart, please, Tammy. And once you've got that data foundation put together, then you can really start to apply analytical tools that are available across IT today to develop a smart plan for the district. And this chart just talks about a maturity curve or a stepladder function with some of the tools that you can use across the analytics portfolio at IBM and some of the resulting use cases. So for example, the very beginning is to organize your data and determine how you're going to manage it and use it. And that's when you can start to get into exploration with things like education data models and what your data governance policies are. And as I mentioned, that's something IBM started with Gwinnett a number of years ago that's allowed us to progress up the different layers of this foundation. Once you've got the information layer, you can start to ask, well, what is happening and what has happened in the past? And you can build educational dashboards as an example to help you do that. Then you can move to the predictive idea of, well, if we know what has happened in the past, what could happen in the future, and what can we predict, and how can we prepare, and how can we better be able to teach our students the way we want to teach them going forward? And that's where we introduce things like predictive analytics. And then as you move further up into the maturity curve, you see we get into prescription and actually the cognitive or the AI layer, which allows you to actually start to deliver and determine the best course of action, not only the teacher doing that, but the teacher being augmented by technology to help them with things like student advising or personalized learning pathways or leveraging information that's out in social media that can give indicators as to how a student is performing and how they're learning. But as I mentioned, all of this requires this data layer, this data foundation, and then this application of analytics. And this is what IBM does really well for schools that helps you get towards the type of project that you're going to hear about in the rest of the webinar with Gwinnett County. Next chart, please, Tammy. So as you go through this process and as you build this data plan, you can start to move through a very logical approach to delivering additional services for your users, for your teachers, for your students, for your administrators, beginning with a single view of student information, how students and schools are performing, using mobility to take a look at some of the patterns that start to become evident in how we're instructing our students, which then of course helps with intervention as necessary and different strategies, and even suggesting through the technology different ideas for how you could give the ideal instructional project or process or resource to an individual student at a given moment in time, perhaps correlated to a standard or a lesson plan, and looking at where a student is struggling and what's the best way to help them overcome that objective. And when we can do all that, when we've got all that in place, when we've got this entire data and analytics foundation built, then we can truly deliver on the promise of personalized learning. And there are a lot of different ways we personalize learning with the schools we work with, again, after building this data and analytics layer. But one of the most exciting is what we're going to talk about in this webinar, and it's one of the most current. But we didn't want to jump to that without talking about the foundation and offering that if your school needs help in this area, this is a place that IBM and IMS and other partners can certainly help you think about how to get started. Next chart, please. So at Gwinnett's the 12th largest school system in the nation. They've been a great partner of IBM for over 23 years. They have a tremendous leadership team with a vision of how technology can truly impact teachers and students. And we began on a long, committed data journey together. And I think, personally, one of the reasons why Gwinnett's been so successful is because of this commitment and because of this partnership and because of this focus on a data journey. But our focus there has been delivering technology solutions that align to their strategic initiatives and are focused around teaching and learning objectives. So what started as dashboards and reports and simple analytics to help inform professional development and school performance has truly grown into data-driven instructional decisions and enabled personalized student instruction in Gwinnett County schools. And we couldn't be more thankful and appreciative of the effort that Gwinnett County has put into this project together. And it's truly exciting to see the progress we can make together for the students of Gwinnett County. So at this point, Tammy, I'd like to go to the next chart, and I'd like to introduce a little bit more information that I'll let you talk about with Gwinnett County, and then our latest project, which I think just shows the power of cognitive and AI technology in schools. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. And Tim Holland's going to give us a little bit more information about Gwinnett County. All right. Tim, maybe have
Tim, are you on mute?
Yes, I thought I had unmuted, and apparently I did it so quickly it muted myself back. So I'll try again. Can you hear me now?
Sounds great.
All right, good. So I'm Kim Holland with Gwinnett County Public Schools, and just giving a little background and information about our school district. So as Bruce indicated, we're the 12th largest in the nation and the largest in Georgia. We're a two-time winner of the Broad Prize for Urban Education, won that in both 2010 and 2014. We were a three-time finalist and won it twice. Just in 2017, we were named the Outstanding Great District for Great Teachers, as well as the College Board Advanced Placement District of the Year. So we are very large. We have almost 180,000 students, and we now have over 22,000 employees. And in those 180,000 students are in 140 schools. So we have 80 elementary schools, 29 middle, 22 high schools, and then 9 other educational facilities. And just a little bit about our student population, we do have approximately 55% of our students that qualify for free or reduced meals.
Excellent. Thanks, Kim. So as we started our journey together, one of the things that we focused on is where do we start? So we wanted to take a look at the research and determine a subject area that would be exceedingly beneficial for the kindergarten population. So as we did our research, we found that a vocabulary kept bubbling up over and over again as a place to start. So research revealed that there's a direct correlation between early vocabulary knowledge and ongoing academic success. That it's a great predictor for reading comprehension all the way through high school. That differences in child's language often relate to family socioeconomic status. And that we know the highest rate of vocabulary development occurs during early childhood years. And so we knew after doing all the research and lots of discussion, this is the area that we wanted to start. We also knew that research-proven approaches to vocabulary learning included a balance of receptive and expressive language, exposure to advanced words. So that was very critical in this pilot, is making sure that we had advanced words to use with the children, a personalized sequence, direct instruction, mixed method interventions, and developing word consciousness. So I'm going to show you a short video that basically sets the stage for the pilot.
Sesame workshops at IBM Watson are inspired to announce the successful completion of a pilot program for the first educational platform that blends Watson's cognitive computing power with Sesame's research-based content. Wait, a kiwi! Hi, you're cute and adorable pilot! Grover, I'm here! No, Grover, not an airplane pilot. I mean a pilot program, which we did in a partnership with Georgia's Gwinnett County Public Schools.
Let me show you. We built a vocabulary learning app on the IBM and Sesame intelligent play and learning platform. And for over a 2-week period, we were able to deliver personalized learning experiences to Gwinnett County kindergarten.
Oh, hello there, kiddies!
I love that it's individualized. I love that they are learning at their own rate of speed. They are getting new words as rewards. And I love seeing them using it outside of the app.
I learn new words, so then I know what they are. Amplify, octagon, insect, arachnid, camouflage.
Wow, Antonio really knows some big words. The Cognitive Vocabulary app is just one of the many cognitive tools, games, and educational toys that will be built on this new platform. Oh, can I see some more? Please. The individualized learning tools will be available on IBM's cloud for implementation in schools globally. We're thrilled to continue working with IBM Watson to develop educational opportunities for children that are adaptive and evolve with us.
Thank you, Gwinnett County Public Schools, for being such pilots with us. This is really going to take off.
So let's talk a little bit about the pilots that we did with Gwinnett. So we actually did 2 phases. In the spring of 2017, we conducted a 3-week pilot with 3 schools, 6 classrooms, and 122 kindergarten students, with an average daily use of approximately 50. We followed up with that in the fall with a longer pilot for 9 weeks. We expanded to 8 classrooms with a total of 177 kindergarten students. And average daily use grew to approximately 70 students per day. We were able to take that data and develop a research design where we could actually take a look at the AI and the learner model to make sure that it was doing what we expected. So we formulated this research design where we divided the students into 2 groups, a group A and a group B, as well as divided the vocabulary into 2 groups. And the children in group A had the group A vocabulary words where they were shown learning activities, and the group B students had the group B words where they were shown learning activities for those words. And then the entire student population were assessed on all of the words. For this particular pilot, we had 41 Tier 2 words, and when we analyzed the data, we were looking for students that completed what we called a full round. So, and that full round indicated that they had completed at least 3 pre-assessments, the learning activity, and then at least 3 post-assessments. And once we analyzed the data, we were able to see that the children that had a learning activity along with the words that they were playing with in the app, that they showed greater performance after the learning activity. So we can see in this particular chart that we had 19 words that had enough data. That was at least 10 students who completed the pre-assessment learning activity and post-assessment that I described in the previous slide. And we were able to take that data and verify that, that with the learning activity, our students did perform better. Now, what does that mean? And we'll get into that in just a few more slides. As an additional dimension, we also did paper-pencil assessments. So all of the data that we analyzed previously was all data that we collected utilizing our learner model. But we wanted to take a look at it from the traditional paper-pencil perspective. And how we did that is each teacher randomly selected 5 students from their classroom. And they were given the pre-assessments prior to the start of the pilot, and then the post-assessments during the last week of the pilot. It was in 2 parts. Part 1, the teacher said the word and the child then would point to the correct picture. And then in part 2, the teacher asked the child to define the word. So in the essence of time, I selected just one sample that we could take a look at in today's webinar, and that's around the word pirouette. In pirouette, during the pre-test, children that didn't have any learning activity, they scored a 47%, post-test 63%, so not too much of a tremendous difference. However, if we take a look at children that actually have the learning activity, then we see that that score jumped from 33 all the way to 100%. We're able to identify the word pirouette. But what's even more encouraging, if you take a look at then how the children express the definitions of the words, you know, during the pre-test, the definitions were literally all over, from I don't know to pirouette means buying food. Whereas at the end of the pilot, you'll see the bulk of the definitions are right on target. Twirling around on your feet, spin around on one leg, dance, he spun around. So we see, you know, a really nice jump there in that expressive language. So I'm going to end this piece with another short video clip. This one is taken from a Discovery Channel documentary that IBM was featured in called This is AI.
For over 49 years, Sesame Workshop has been committed to achieving one mission, helping children everywhere grow smarter, stronger, and kinder. So one of the ways in which we envision this collaboration with our partners at IBM Watson is to think through those earliest years and start to tackle some of the hardest questions of education.
What we're doing with early childhood now is targeted at kind of 5-year-olds, which, you know, we might go lower than that in the future. But it's really crucial because if they start off on the wrong foot, it affects them throughout their life.
Language acquisition and word learning is a science, and the teaching of that is the art. And so the tutor is mimicking a lot of the art that is going on. The science that's underneath it is built on already established and known and accepted theory. So what has been ingested within Watson are all the myriad of word lists that are out there.
In the case of teaching a 4-year-old or 5-year-old vocabulary, you might provide them with a video that helps them understand a particular word or concept, and then try to help them identify, you know, that word in a different context to prove that they've learned something.
I know the word octagon, tool. I have pirouette, feline, and ER, and applause.
Our vision is that teachers will engage with this technology on behalf of their children and families, and they welcome this tutor into their classroom, and they set it up with a comfort of knowing that the tutor is going to give her exactly the information she needs when she needs it. It's a reliable source for her. Can children learn in this way? And we can.
All right. I'm going to turn it over now to my colleague, Tamer, who's going to take you through a deeper dive of our intelligent tutoring system. So, Tamer, over to you.
Thank you, Tammy. What I wanted to do here was just kind of go through, well, how does Watson really do what is believed it's doing here? What is really under the hood? And all this stuff is based on this whole idea that we call the personalized learner journey. And the whole tagline to it is that Watson is supposed to be someone who understands you. So given that, in order to understand someone, you have to basically know what they know and what they don't know. And you'll see me explain into that a little bit more. That's the part that we call our learner model. Then we have this notion of this media library, which media library has in it videos and images and all kinds of things that we could use as illustrative elements. Then we have this component called the knowledge graph. And you'll see me go into the knowledge graph and the learner model in the next slides. But as Watson builds this understanding of what you know and what you don't know, it then starts to use the content that it has generated, it being Watson has generated, and take that and use it to fill in the gaps or assess you further, or actually understand a little bit from you. So to go through that curriculum journey. So on the next slide, you will see us taking a look at this personalized scalable content. This is what Watson essentially generates. Underneath the scalable content is this notion of a knowledge graph, which is something that we actually all interact with on a daily basis with things like, how is it that a search engine could come up with, when you ask for like the 5th president of the US, how do they know who that is? So somewhere along the line, there's something that connects all that information. But that's general information as opposed to more specific information. So when you get into a journey in vocabulary, there are different things that connect vocabulary words, and some of them are not connected at all. But what you're seeing here on the left is one such example where about different animals, they're being connected with relationships that connect us, like a frog lays eggs, etc. Taking that knowledge graph as an input, Watson can then start to be able to generate teaching content and assessment content, which is really what an intelligent tutor does under the covers. It's really what any tutor does under the covers. So when you look at the right-hand side, the top part is an example of what we call a slideshow, or essentially something that you have a script, you have some images that go along with it that actually go through and try to teach you what is this thing that you have a gap in understanding. And then on the bottom side, you see an example of an assessment. In this case, it's about an amphibian that was generated for, for whoever, a learner that has that needs to learn about amphibian, or needs to be assessed about amphibian, I should say. Next slide, please. So now we get into this learner model. The learner model is literally the heart of the whole system. This is the thing that starts to understand what you know, what you don't know, how do we, what are you, where's the gap in your knowledge. So we have this notion of what's called the phased learner model, excuse me. And the phased learner model really starts out with your curriculum, the words that a teacher says, this is my curriculum, they get injected into what we assume you don't know anything about it. And in the area of AI, you have this notion of something called cold start problem. Cold start problem basically says, I don't know anything about you, but I have to make some decisions, or so that I can learn a little bit better from what you know. And essentially go past that cold start into actually knowledge, real knowledge. So we inject all the words into this unexposed phase, and then as the person gets assessed and Watson starts to build a little bit more about them, a little bit more information about them, words move into this middle phase, which is marked with the, the two middle red sections, and that's when we know, okay, the child is learning in this phase. Thank you, Tammy. The child is learning in that phase. And then as we get more confidence that the learner really gets this word, or whatever other thing we're assessing, in this case only words move into this where you see the arrow, it says to learned phase, and they move into what we're calling this mastery. And as we're doing the teaching happens in that midsection where we know this is the area that you need to learn, We've determined that somehow that you need to learn about this, so we teach about what's in there. But then when we assess, assessment is continuous across all the three phases, you know, the unexposed, the middle section there, which is what we call the working set, and then the mastered or learned section. And the reason we assess across them all is that as we humans go throughout a journey, we have this notion of memory decay. We don't know that the student still knows what the word arachnid is 3 weeks later or 6 weeks later, so we want to confirm. And if that concept fell out of your mind as a student, well, we're going to help you learn it again. So we're going to go into the next slide where we're going to show you a particular journey for the word pirouette, since you know, Tammy was showing pirouette, so we'll go with pirouette here. So you start out with having this timeline where, you know, Tammy was talking about the pre-assessment phase. We assess you before we teach you, because if you know something, there's no sense for us to try to teach you about it. We want to avoid learner fatigue. So you could see, you know, these are showing, you know, the dates when we were doing the pilot. This is literally out of the Gwinnett pilot, second pilot, that is. And we're actually showing, you know, the child took a first assessment, a second, and a third, wrong, and then, you know, the third one could have been a chance they guessed it correctly. So that's their kind of first exposure to it. Next. So next, the child, Watson determined, hey, you know what, I need to assess, I need to teach you something. So we start showing learning activities, and they get shown, you know, on a subsequent day when they came into the app again. We do another assessment. This other assessment is of a different form. We have different forms of, at the moment we have multiple choice questions, but there are different forms of them, multi-answer, single answer, etc. And, well, the students started to do better, and then they interact with the app again, and all of a sudden, you know, we start to see the score of the learner starts to go higher and higher, and the confidence of the system gains this higher confidence that, you know what, I think you get this word. He or she really gets the word pirouette. Next slide. And you start to see the journey, and this is the system's confidence in your knowledge of the word pirouette. Now this one has a really nice curve where it's going from low all the way up. Some of them, this is not how all of them look. Some of them look more jagged than others, but this really shows you that journey of how Watson starts to know what you know about pirouette. Next slide.
Excellent. Thanks, Tamer. So,
thank you.
Yeah, time does permit, so we do have a chance. So with all of our work with Gwinnett, we used all of the knowledge that we gained, all the feedback, so this is a sneak peek as to what is next from the vocabulary tutor.
Here at IBM, we partner with Sesame Workshop. Our broader goal is to enable rich and meaningful experiences with children, which enable them to learn new words through play. Here's our new game.
Welcome.
Characters like Sesame's Grover guide kids through the experience.
Enter your username. Hold on. Hit the blue go button. I'm your brilliant, adorable Tom Grover. And this is little robot turn keyboard. We are so excited you are here because we are going to make things and we are going to learn new words.
Within the makerspace, Bbarb teaches kids new words using conversation. In the makerspace, kids create and learn with Bbarb.
Nice choice. I like how you choose things for your self-portrait. Choose another sticker to add even more detail.
Bbarb offers suggestions, asks questions, and teaches new words.
You know what this self-portrait reminds me of? The word peek, which means to look quickly. I like what this self-portrait communicates. Word alert. Word alert. Hey, have you heard there's a brand new word? It's communicate. Communicate. Hey, what's the word? Communicate. Communicate means to get and send messages. People can communicate how they are feeling through their expressions. I can always tell when my friends are feeling sad, angry, or happy by looking at their faces. An excited mouth and a head. What a curious combination.
Makerspace provides a fun activity where kids can create their own works. Watson monitors the activity, looking for opportunities to teach. child's progress and performance are stored, informing an AI-powered learner model that enables personalized learning to suit each child's individual needs. Each work can be published by the child for play later and to be reviewed by the teacher. A child can annotate their work using the words that they learned. This enables teachers and caregivers to evaluate the child's command of the material. The application provides a suite of fun games that are used to assess the child's progress on the vocabulary. In Captain Grover's Word Adventure, kids will answer vocabulary questions to help Grover and his first mate Beebor find the treasure.
Hello there, it's I, your free and adorable pirate captain, Grover. And this is my good friend and first mate, Beebor.
Sail east, sail west, but first pass this test. Tap for Sadie Island. That means to take away. It is magnificent, astonishing, but remove.
I think it's remove.
Remove.
You are Master Riddle Answerer. Setting sail.
Multiple choice assessment questions, like the one we just saw, are generated automatically by Watson. Watson uses its learner model to ensure the questions presented to each user meet their specific needs.
You have those waterfalls. Here you go, my little pirate. We have done it. We have found the pirate's treasure. Now we've done it without you.
To keep things interesting, the application offers 4 games, all that use Watson in a similar manner. Let's check out Sir Grover's Word Quest. In Grover's Word Quest, the child will search the room looking for keys.
Come out, little key. That is it. We have all the keys.
In order to unlock the door, the child must answer a vocabulary question.
In order to open the locked door, use this key and nothing more. Tell me which of the following means to take away.
If kids answer questions and complete games, they earn points and unlock the words that they've mastered. The child will be asked to pronounce the word, state its definition, and use it in a sentence. All words are available in My Dictionary and can be reviewed by the child at any time. Teachers are provided a teacher dashboard where they can monitor the progress of their class and their students. Here, they can catch a quick glance of the trending words and the progress of each student. A teacher can select a student to get a deeper understanding of their progress. The child's recent projects and trending words are available. Teachers can see each child's progress against the word list. Here, they can listen to and review child submissions. All in all, the application provides a cutting-edge AI-powered learning experience informed by research conducted by IBM and Sesame Workshop.
All right. So I think now we're over to question and answer. So Jill, I'll turn it back over to you.
Well, thanks. And again, to our attendees, if you do have a question, please go ahead and submit it through the Q&A. We had one question come in, and I think that Tamer has already answered it. Another question is, was this solution connected with a learning management system?
In the case of this pilot, it was not.
Okay. And we were interested in hearing from Debbie and Kim, your experience with the pilot.
So this is Kim again. So our experience, we spent a lot of time in the classrooms observing the teachers and the students, and I will say that the Sesame content was extremely engaging to kids, and they would in turn, be able to use the words that they had learned in some ways outside of, the actual program. I remember one child, I think in Ms. Hardy's class, that saw a spider in the classroom and said, "Oh, look, an arachnid." So, there was definitely vocabulary learning taking place in the pilot, and then the children did really seem to enjoy the way that the words were presented to them.
Okay, thank you. So perhaps, this question would be for anybody in the group. Wait a minute, I see a question coming in just as I was going to offer one of my own. The system relies on continuous automated assessment. How do you envision expanding to subjects where assessments are not easily auto-generated or auto-scored via multiple choice, maybe composition in English, or you know, where a digital artifact might be created?
Sure, I'll take first stab at that, Ms. Tamer. So that's an excellent question. So one thing, just before getting into that, what we have created in the system is that there's a platform, which is basically a bunch of REST APIs, as what any platform is. It's a collection of REST APIs that are structured in a way that they essentially address the different functionalities that a tutor, an intelligent tutor, would have. And then on top of that, we have built all these different experiences. In this case, you know, Tammy showcased actually, you know, what's coming and what we did previously. So there are two different games that we've built on top of that platform. Given that, the platform in this case has the notion of having, you know, one or more learner models. It has the notion of having one or more different assessment types and one or more different teaching activities and many other things, but those are the three highlights. So the learning activities that are there at the moment, those are things that can easily be, you know, we could put essentially a different thing. We call them learning cartridges or content cartridges. And from that, we could pull in any of different ones that we use. Right now, we have the one that we were describing. But it doesn't preclude us from actually putting something else in there. It's actually part of the architecture that we have in there. Similarly for assessments, there is literally inside the assessment API, there's something that says you can tell it what type of assessment you're looking for. So right now, it has multiple choice questions with different types of it. On a different tutor that we have for, you know, different domain higher education, we have fill in the blanks, we have different other ones that are there. So we put in there exactly what is it that we need for what, you know, the use cases that we're building. At the moment, that's the one that we needed for the current use case, but think of it also in this way. A multiple choice assessment can very easily be converted into a fill in the blanks. So the net of it is we can put whichever one in there. Similarly with the learner model, I explained this phased learner model that we have today, but we have, you know, we have the plans, and in the architecture, it's actually there. You literally have to specify the kind of learner model that you want. There are some defaults and such, but we can have other learner models in there that we actually would run in parallel. So if you think of an experience that's built on top of it, that experience can say, I want this particular learning, content learning cartridge, I want one or more, I want this particular one or more assessment types, and I want this particular one or more different kinds of ways to assess how to advance and personalize the learner, i.e. the learner model.
Thanks, Tamer. So if you do have other questions, please do feel free to contact Bruce or Tammy. As you can see, we have information on screen, and you'll be able to get in touch with them beyond today's session. And if you're interested in learning more about the cognitive AI, we encourage you to consider registering for our upcoming Learning Impact of Analytics Summit in November, where we will have a session going on with the folks from IBM. Visit imsglobal.org/events to learn more about that summit, and we hope you'll join us in Atlanta for that event. We also have another webinar coming up in October as part of our K-12 webinar series, and we'll encourage you to register for that event as well. You can find more information about that on our website. We thank you very much for being here today and hope you have a great rest of your afternoon. Thank you to all of our speakers for sharing this great information with us today.